Having a remote team is one thing, and of course you work together. The question is, do you trust each other? And the question is, how do you actually create trust in remote teams when you do not have the privilege that remote work only entered your world when you were already working together for 20 years, so you know each other already from the office for a decade or two. And we have an expert on the matter with us here today. Hello and welcome, Kevin Diaz.
Hi, Niels. Great to be here. Thanks for having me again.
Thank you very much for being here again, back by popular demand, I can say. So people ask you back, so well done you here. Can you tell us a bit more on your background? How do you work in the remote setting so people know what you actually do every single day?
Sure. Well, personally, I've been working remotely since 2014, and not just remotely, but like complete opposite time zone remotely. So I am based in Japan, and I work for a U.S. company. So there's quite a big, tends to be 12 or 13 hours difference there.
Mhm.
And currently, I'm at Ambiki, where we are a 100% remote team. We have all the time zones in the U.S. plus four other countries, so people all over the world.
Excellent. So when you want to work together with people and you don't know each other, and let's face it, you do not have the opportunity to just fly over and meet because usually you either don't have the time or the resource, or people simply say you won't get money for this. How do you create trust amongst people who only know each other from computer screens?
Yeah, so I think it starts with making sure you hire the right people, people who are willing to work in a remote environment, who are, willing to have that level of autonomy. But there's also some different systems that we've put in place. So one, we have a team working agreement. So one of the
Hmm.
first things I struggled with personally was, so since I'm in Japan, if I'm in the middle of my day and I have a great idea that I want to message a teammate on, it's 10 p.m. or
Yeah,
2 a.m. their time,
yeah.
and being their boss, I don't want them to feel like they have to respond or they have to be up in the middle of the night waiting, is Kevin going to message
Which
me?
they probably will when they want to have a career. They probably will try to react to actually impress you in one way or the other.
And even if I just said that, it was clear that like they were still not getting it. So we really had to have this explicit team working agreement where we said, your working hours are your working hours. You don't have to check messages outside of that, but people will be sending messages and receiving messages asynchronously because we're across all various time zones. And just the act of having that very explicit agreement that people would sign when they started, really, put it out there and showed like, hey, we mean it when we say this. And yeah, in addition to that, like we don't mandate work hours. So, everyone's already in different time zones. So if
Hmm.
you're an early bird and you want to work early in the mornings and get off, early in the afternoon, great. If you're a night owl and you want to start late and work late, whatever works for you, it's more about the accountability of getting the work done, seeing the outcomes, things like that.
Mm. Excellent. So people are fully flexible. They could work 4 a.m. in the morning or 6 p.m. in the evening and then do their hours, fully flexible around the clock.
Because for me, it doesn't really matter because I'm in a completely different time zone anyways, right? But I
Hmm.
think, people tend to, work regular hours, especially like
Yeah,
our US team, just because that is most convenient for them and that tends to fit the schedules around kids and schools
yeah.
and things like that.
Excellent.
Um,
Yeah. So one question, of course, I have, you said you need to hire the right people. So what I usually see in an interview is someone is sitting there with a checklist and say, are you okay with remote work? Someone says, yes. Okay, tick the box. And that's the end of the topic. So people say, are you okay with it? They say yes. And sometimes you hire people who suddenly, after 3 or 4 months, quit out of the blue because they say, look, I just realized this is not really for me. Not even about the time. It's just me sitting on my own just doesn't work. And of course, companies now want to prevent that you invest into someone and then they say, sorry, it's all great. It's just not for me. So you didn't even do anything wrong that you could change. How do you know how to hire the right people?
Yeah, I don't have the magic formula, but I would say the things that we really care about are written communication is just so important in a work environment. So being able to express your ideas. One thing that we like to do when we're hiring is a take-home paid work example. Like for the
Hmm.
the development team, it might be creating, some small project, and it's not about the actual creation itself, but it more often is like after you've built it, being able to get on, explain your thinking, explain your ideas, walk through, and, were you able to write clearly about why you built what you built and what your thinking process was? So I think in those steps, you're able to see a little bit like, will this person be able to work asynchronously? Are they able to express their ideas clearly? Can they do it in writing? Those are some of the things that are top of the list that I tend to look for.
Excellent. And when you now say, okay, some people might be at the situation where they say, I think we trust each other, but we didn't have any big moment of crisis. And we don't want to find out during crisis that actually trust is pretty low here. Is there any kind of way that leaders or people in the team can find out is trust either high or rather low? Is there any kind of way to find out?
Um, I'm not sure about ways to find out, but I think like, ways of building trust are very important. So I think, it's about doing what you'll say you'll do, making your thinking visible. So being able to, especially in a remote environment, because you don't get to talk to people in the hallways,
Mm.
putting the context behind different decisions of the why you made that decision. I think creating predictable rhythms. So we do both an Eastern Hemisphere weekly meeting and a Western Hemisphere weekly meeting
Hmm.
because there was just really no way to have an all hands type
Yeah.
meeting with all the different time zones and recording all of those. So having everything being very transparent that like you don't have to watch it, but if you wanted to watch it, like it's on the shared drive and you can see it. Being consistent in your actions. I think, the same leadership principles that apply in person apply in a remote environment as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And one question when I prepared for this interview, of course, I asked because many people ask you back. That's why I got in touch with you. And of course, I asked them, what are your main questions? And there's one question that really sort of that basically almost anyone said. And I'm going to put this forward to you. They said, with his experience, they really want to know one thing. What are your top three don'ts? So things you did where you realized, okay, that didn't work too well. So your top three don'ts and your top three do's to actually make people prevent these mistakes and do this, which is way better. What are your top three don'ts and do's as the final question of this interview regarding how to create and not only trust, but also a great remote team? Start with the don'ts,
Yeah, great.
probably. Yeah.
Let me start with the do's. I got to think a little bit on the
Okay.
don'ts. So the do's, I would say, we have a what we worked on today channel, and the point of this is not at all about micromanagement. It's about communication because you're
Mm-hmm.
missing those hallway conversations. Just having a place that teammates can understand like what other people are working on. That, it's not every day that you're going to have a connection, but sometimes you're going to see like, oh, like I can help out that teammate. I didn't know they were working on that thing. So, and it's not like you have to list, we make it very clear. It's not about listing every single thing you did that day, but just the key pieces that other teammates,
Mm-hmm.
might want to know to show clarity. Um, what else? The team working agreement that I mentioned, I feel like that is a very key do that has really helped us
Yeah.
in the remote environment. Um, as far as don'ts, like a big one, micromanagement. I think uh, the first thing that I've seen a lot of the big mistake I see people make is like, all right, it's a remote environment. Like I can't see them. I can't watch them.
Mm-hmm.
I need to get more heavy-handed. And, that never works, right?
Yeah.
And I think it becomes both like you have to look inward at yourself. Like, do we have the right systems? Have I set clear goals and expectations for these teammates? And then if that is true, then maybe it's like looking at, well, who are we hiring? Because if I can't trust these people to execute on those goals, then we have a bigger problem that micromanagement is not going to solve. Um, I think the other thing I would say would be, I really like Amazon and Jeff Bezos' concept of one-way doors and two-way doors.
Mm-hmm.
So, a one-way door being a decision that's really big and you probably can't reverse it and you should put more thought into it, and a two-way door being, decisions
Yeah.
that you can, come back on. And I think in a startup world, on a daily basis, maybe 98 to 99% of these decisions are going to be two-way doors. And as a startup, time is your most valuable resource. And uh, giving your team the autonomy and the green light and the trust that like, hey, the psychological safety to say like it's okay to fail, but like I want you to, I would rather that you ask for forgiveness than ask for permission. Like I need you
Hmm.
to make these two-way door decisions every day to move us forward because there's going to be a lot of them, and speed is our greatest asset. So I trust you. Like let's make the decision, move on. If it's
Make it
not
happen.
right, we can course correct from there.
Yeah.
So I think that also takes time to build that trust with your team. That's part of it. But I think being able to give them that leeway to make those decisions. And maybe the other thing I would say as a do as a leader is a lot of leaders feel like people are waiting on them to make the decision for them. But I think a lot of times leadership is more about just helping them ask the right questions so that then they can make the decision. Sometimes they're not looking for you to make the answer. They're just kind of coming to you to explore the ideas or to get you to ask questions. So not feeling that you have to make the decision for them, but prompting them with the right questions so that they understand the problem that needs to be solved.
Yeah. I think these are the perfect final words. We see someone has a lot of experience, and you now can put everything into practice in your team. And of course, Kevin is available on LinkedIn as well, so he's happy to answer any question. We've always been in touch, so I can say absolutely great person to be in touch with anytime. At the end of this podcast, as well as at the end of the videocast, there's only one thing left for me to say. Kevin, thank you very much for your
Thank
time.
you, Niels.